People say blood is thicker than water. They say family is the ultimate anchor, a safe harbor when the storms of life finally hit. They are wrong. Dead wrong. I learned the truth at 72. Blood is just biology. It means nothing. Money is the real current. It is an acid. It eats through steel, through memories, through 40 years of quiet sacrifice. The blood running through my only son's veins was cold. It smelled like fresh ink, premium leather, and pure entitlement. The night my entire life's work was unveiled, a massive black granite plaque sat on the stage. My name was carved deep into the stone. Right beside it, an empty space, a glaring polished void on live television. A void meant for my son. People thought I lost my family that night. They thought I was humiliated. They didn't realize the truth. I hadn't lost anything. I had just executed the most perfect demolition of a lie. Let that sink in. Make yourself comfortable. This story is going to take you a very long way. Please hit the like button and leave a comment below to let me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you're going to love it here. The air inside the Vance Maritime Innovation Center smelled like fresh paint and salt water. Downtown St. Petersburg, Florida. A $70 million facility. Glass and steel. Concrete and ambition. Hundreds of people packed the grand atrium. Corporate executives. Local politicians. Men in $5,000 bespoke suits. Women wearing diamonds that cost more than a house. I wore my charcoal suit. Classic. Simple. Tailored. The television cameras hummed. Red lights blinked. The local news affiliates were broadcasting live. Vanguard Maritime Logistics was the economic spine of the city. I had given 42 years of my life to that spine. From a soot-stained mechanic on the factory floor to the executive board. 42 years. The master of ceremonies stepped up to the podium. She smiled. Her teeth were blindingly white. Ladies and gentlemen, she echoed through the state-of-the-art acoustics. Tonight, we dedicate this center. We honor a man whose integrity built Vanguard. Jonathan Vance. Applause erupted. It bounced off the 80-foot glass ceiling. It was deafening. I sat in the front row. I kept my face blank. A stoic mask. My posture was straight. I smiled politely. But my eyes did not look at the crowd. My eyes stayed locked on the stage. The black granite wall. The brass lettering. Jonathan Vance. And right beneath it, nothing. Empty space. It was designed for a second name. Brandon Vance. My son. He was supposed to be named the honorary managing director. He was supposed to stand next to me. To shake the CEO's hand. To inherit the legacy. He was nowhere in the building. The camera operators are trained predators. They notice everything. The main lens physically pivoted. It zoomed in, past my face, past the executives, straight onto the empty brass mount. The screens above us flashed the image, a massive, glaring blank spot. The applause wavered. It thinned out. The silence crept in. It poured over the crowd like wet concrete. Cold, heavy, suffocating. Everyone understood. You don't need a degree to read an empty chair. The seat reserved for my blood was vacant. The MC swallowed hard. She leaned down from the stage. Her microphone was muted, but I read her lips. "Mr. Vance," she whispered nervously. "Do we wait?" I looked at her. My expression didn't shift. "No." She blinked. "Do you want to go up alone?" I didn't answer right away. I turned around. I looked past the millionaires, past the board members, past the silk ties and gold watches. Right by the exit door stood a kid. Early 20s. He wore a navy blue suit. It was clean. It was pressed. But the fabric was cheap. The cut was old. He looked terrified. He looked like he was bracing for an impact. Lucas Sterling, the son of a dead man. The son of my best friend. I caught his eye. I didn't yell. I just nodded. I gestured to the empty seat beside me. His eyes widened. He shook his head slightly. Me, I nodded again. I mouthed the words. "Come here." Lucas swallowed hard. He walked down the center aisle. Every head turned. 400 pairs of eyes tracked a public school robotics teacher walking among titans. He sat down next to me. The chair creaked slightly. "You didn't have to do this, sir," he whispered. His hands were shaking. I looked straight ahead. "Your father would have been here. He earned this seat. You are sitting in it." The ceremony resumed. The CEO stepped up. Harrison Thorne. A man who started in the mailroom and fought his way to the penthouse. He adjusted his tie. He looked at me. Then he looked at the cameras. "Jonathan Vance didn't just build ships," Harrison said. His voice boomed. He built people. Years ago, Jonathan turned down executive stock options. He refused massive retention bonuses. He told the board to hide the money, to lock it away. He called it a structural investment in human character. Murmurs rippled through the room. Rich people hate secrets involving money. Harrison pressed a button. A digital counter appeared on the screen. It ticked upward rapidly. It stopped at a massive number, 1200. The Legacy Gratitude Endowment, Harrison announced. $1.2 million. Unrestricted cash, fully tax paid. And Jonathan kept the sole right to name the first recipient. The room stopped breathing. I didn't move. Harrison pointed straight at the front row. Lucas Sterling. Come claim your foundation. Lucas stopped breathing. He turned pale. Absolute ghost white. He looked at me. Mr. Vance. What is this, a foundation? I said quietly. For a house that won't collapse. Lucas was pushed onto the stage. The cameras swarmed him. He was handed a heavy leather folder. The wire transfer receipt. He wept. He broke down on live television. The crowd lost their minds. A standing ovation that shook the structural steel of the building. Men in suits wiped their eyes. It was a perfect story. The loyal friend. The ultimate reward. But it wasn't a story about a reward. It was a story about demolition. 3 hours later, midnight, I sat in the cab of my 2021 Ford F-150, parked in my own driveway. The engine was off. The Florida heat radiated off the asphalt. The crickets chirped. My phone illuminated the dark cab. Buzz, buzz, buzz. I looked at the glass screen. 112 missed calls. Brandon. Victoria. Brandon again. Victoria again. Panic. Pure, unadulterated financial panic. I didn't answer. I just watched the screen glow, then fade to black. Methodically. Quietly. I had laid the dynamite. The detonator had just been pressed. To understand the explosion, you have to look at the blueprints. You have to understand how the rot got into the wood. 6 years ago, my wife Eleanor died. Pancreatic cancer. It was fast. It was brutal. It stripped her down to the studs, then took the house. When she died, the warmth in our family died with her. I became silent. My son Brandon became distant. At 33, Brandon was a vice president at a logistics firm in Tampa. He drove a German sports car. He lived in a gated community. He was married to Victoria. Victoria was a piece of work. She wasn't just ambitious. She was an architect of social climbing. She looked at people like stepping stones. If you couldn't elevate her status, you didn't exist. I drove a Ford. I wore canvas jackets. I had grease under my fingernails. To Victoria, I wasn't a father-in-law. I was a blue-collar embarrassment. I saw the shift. I watched it happen. Brandon stopped calling. He stopped coming by the house. Fishing trips were canceled. Sunday dinners became quarterly obligations. When they did visit, Victoria kept her designer purse on her lap, ready to bolt. We have a charity gala, Dad, Brandon would say, checking his Rolex. Can't stay long. Of course, I would say. I never complained. A Stoic does not beg for affection. A father does not invoice his son for time. But I noticed the details. I noticed how my son's spine vanished whenever Victoria spoke. She dictated the terms of his life, where they lived, what they drove, who they ignored. 3 months ago, Vanguard announced the dedication ceremony. 42 years of my blood, sweat, and patents. The building would bear my name. I drove to Brandon's house, a massive Mediterranean mansion. 4 locks on the front door. On the outside, that isn't security. That is a cage. He opened the door in golf clothes. I have something for you, I said. I handed him the heavy embossed invitation. Gold foil. Heavy cardstock. He looked at it. A building dedication? Dad, this is huge. It's on television, I said flatly. Victoria walked into the foyer. She snatched the card from his hand. She scanned it. Oh, a ribbon cutting. Cute. I need you there, Brandon, I said. Next to me, on the stage. Brandon smiled. The perfect hollow corporate smile. Absolutely, Dad. I wouldn't miss it. I'll be right there in the front row. I believed him. It is a fatal flaw in human engineering. A father always trusts the structural integrity of his own son. Exactly 24 hours before the cameras rolled, my phone rang. I was standing in my kitchen. The sun was setting over the Gulf. Hey, Dad, Brandon's voice was loud. Too loud. Manufactured enthusiasm. Hello, son. Listen, about tomorrow. Victoria found this insane last-minute deal. Scottsdale, Arizona. A 5-star wellness retreat. We're flying out in the morning. I stopped wiping the counter. The cloth in my hand went still. Tomorrow morning. Yeah, I know it's bad timing with your building thing. But we already paid the deposit. He was lying. I knew it. He knew it. You haven't booked the flights yet, I said softly. Silence. The kind of silence that happens right before a bridge collapses. Then Victoria's voice in the background. Sharp. Annoyed. Babe. Tell him we're exhausted. It's just an old man's retirement party. Tell him to get over it. My jaw locked. My teeth ground together. Dad, Brandon whispered. Victoria really needs this. She's stressed. I looked out the window. The oak tree I planted with Eleanor. Deep roots. Strong wood. Brandon had no roots. He was just a leaf blowing in Victoria's wind. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. Anger is useless. Anger is a match. It burns out quickly. I preferred a wrecking ball. I understand, I said. My voice was ice. You do? He sounded relieved. A coward always seeks the easy exit. You're not mad? I am 72 years old, Brandon. I don't get mad. Awesome. We'll take you to dinner next month. Promise. Click. I lowered the phone. The house was dead quiet. I didn't throw a glass against the wall. I didn't punch a cabinet. I walked over to my desk. I opened the bottom drawer. I pulled out a heavy steel lockbox. Inside were 3 thick folders. Decades of financial records, college tuition receipts, mortgage down payments, unpaid loans I had quietly forgiven. I picked up my phone. I scrolled past my son's name. I tapped a different number. Lucas, I said when he answered. Mr. Vance. Is everything okay? Put on your best suit. You're coming with me tomorrow, and we are going to change your life. The next morning, the sun rose over the Gulf of Mexico. The sky was the color of bruised iron. I didn't sleep. I didn't need to. I had a cup of black coffee. I had 3 cardboard boxes on my kitchen table. Those boxes contained the exact blueprint of a parasitic architecture. I opened the first box. The scent of old paper and dried ink. Inside were canceled checks. Hundreds of them. Tuition bills from Florida State University. Fully paid. Housing deposits. Meal plans. Fraternity dues. I pulled out a faded receipt from 2009. The down payment for Brandon's first townhouse. $85,000. Paid by a cashier's check. My signature at the bottom. I opened the second box. Letters. Birthday cards from Eleanor. Every single one had a crisp $100 bill tucked inside. There were invoices for Brandon's extravagant wedding. Victoria had demanded imported white roses. She demanded a live string quartet. I wrote the checks. Quietly. Methodically. Parents do not keep score. But accountants do. And architects absolutely do. I calculated the total structural load I had carried for my son over 39 years. The number was staggering. He believed he was a self-made corporate executive. He believed his success was a self-supporting pillar. It wasn't. I was the rebar hidden inside his concrete. I was the foundation. It was time to pull the rebar out. At 8:00 a.m. I drove my F-150 to downtown Tampa. I parked outside a glass high-rise. The law firm of Sterling, Hayes, and Abernathy. I didn't have an appointment. I didn't need one. When you are a senior board member of Vanguard Maritime, doors open. I sat across from Arthur Hayes, a ruthless estate lawyer. He wore a $6,000 suit. He looked at me with sharp, calculating eyes. Jonathan, Arthur said, what can we do for you today? I slid a heavily tabbed manila folder across the polished mahogany desk. Demolition, Arthur. Total structural teardown. He opened the folder. He read the top page. His eyebrows arched. You're invoking the shareholder clawback clause? On your own family trust? Every single share. Every single dividend. Years ago, when Vanguard went public, I structured my equity into a generational family trust. Brandon was the primary beneficiary. Victoria knew this. She had her own lawyers verify it before the wedding. She thought the vault was sealed. She thought the money was inevitable. But I am an engineer. I never build a structure without an emergency kill switch. Paragraph 4, subsection C. A morality and loyalty clause. I retain the absolute unilateral right to dissolve the beneficiary status at any time for any reason prior to my physical death. Revoke it, I said flatly. Jonathan, this cuts Brandon out completely. He won't see a dime of the Vanguard stock. That is the objective, Arthur. And the coastal ranch house? Transfer the deed. Put it into an irrevocable trust. Name the local children's hospital as the sole beneficiary upon my death. Arthur wrote furiously on his legal pad. Done. What else? I pulled out my leather wallet. I extracted a sleek, heavy platinum credit card. I have 2 secondary authorized users on my primary corporate accounts. Brandon and Victoria. Cancel them. Immediately. Flag any further charges as unauthorized. Arthur paused. He looked up. A slight dark smile touched his lips. You are cutting the oxygen lines. I am turning off the life support, I corrected him. They want to fly first class on their own wings. Let them. I walked out of that office at 10:30 a.m. The air felt lighter. The legal paperwork was filed. The trap was set. The trap was invisible. It was perfectly legal. It was lethal. Let that sink in. Fast forward to the night of the ceremony. The night of the empty brass slot on the granite wall. While Lucas Sterling was crying on stage, holding a check for $1.2 million, Victoria was busy on her phone. She was sitting in a private cabana in Scottsdale. The temperature was a perfect 85 degrees. She posted a photo on Instagram. A crystal margarita glass. A sparkling pool. Her caption, escaping the tedious corporate obligations. Some people live in the past. We drink to the future. Unbothered luxury life. She tagged her location. She made it public. Hubris is a fascinating defect. It makes you blind to the wrecking ball until it shatters your teeth. Local news clips of the Vanguard ceremony hit the internet at 6:00 p.m. By 8:00 p.m., a prominent business journalist on Twitter quote-tweeted the video of the empty brass nameplate. Vanguard pioneer Jonathan Vance honors 42 years. Leaves son's nameplate blank. Gives 12M to his dead friend's son. Where was Brandon Vance? The internet is a vicious, unpaid detective agency. Within 30 minutes, internet sleuths found Brandon's LinkedIn. They found Victoria's Instagram. They put the 2 images side by side. The empty, tragic space on the granite wall, honoring a lifetime of blue-collar sacrifice. And the smug, sun-tanned daughter-in-law sipping tequila in the desert, mocking his life's work. The backlash was instant. It was nuclear. By 9:00 p.m., Victoria's Instagram was flooded with 10,000 comments. They called her a parasite. They called Brandon a disgrace. They tagged Brandon's logistics firm. They posted the screenshots. That is when my phone started vibrating in the cab of my truck. 112 missed calls. I sat in the driveway, the engine ticking as it cooled. I picked up the phone. It vibrated again. Brandon. I pressed the green button. I brought the phone to my ear. Hello, son. My voice was a flat line. Dad, Brandon was hyperventilating. I could hear the sheer panic vibrating in his vocal cords. Dad, what the hell did you do? I attended a ribbon cutting, Brandon. I cut a ribbon. You humiliated us. Victoria is having a panic attack in the bathroom. Her phone won't stop ringing. People are calling my office line. The internet is a loud place, I said. You should probably turn off your notifications. Why didn't you warn me about the money? He screamed. $1 million, Dad? You gave it to a public school teacher. Are you out of your mind? I gave it to a man who showed up. Silence on the line. Heavy. Suffocating. The realization hitting him like a physical blow. Dad, listen. We are at the airport. We are flying back tonight. Don't talk to the press. Don't sign anything else. I am coming straight to the house. I am not going anywhere. I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. 2 hours later, headlights swept across my living room wall. The gravel crunched violently in the driveway. Car doors slammed. Heavy, fast footsteps on the wooden porch. I was sitting in my worn leather recliner. The only light came from the small lamp on the side table. On the coffee table in front of me sat the 3 cardboard boxes. The front door swung open. Brandon didn't even knock. He looked terrible. His designer golf shirt was wrinkled. His hair was a mess. His eyes were bloodshot. Victoria walked in right behind him. She looked like a cornered animal. Her makeup was smeared. She clutched her Hermes bag like a shield. You did this on purpose, Victoria shrieked. Her voice shattered the quiet of my house. You set us up. You wanted us to look like monsters. I didn't stand up. I didn't raise my voice. I invited you to a building dedication, I said calmly. You chose to go to the desert. The camera simply filmed what was there. An empty space. Brandon ran a hand over his face. He paced the floor. Dad, the endowment. The 1.2 million. We can fight that. We can say you weren't in your right mind. We can call Arthur Hayes and have it contested. I let out a short, dry laugh. It sounded like sandpaper on wood. The money is gone, Brandon. It is in a secure, irrevocable educational trust managed by Lucas. You couldn't touch it with an army of lawyers. Victoria stepped forward. Her eyes were venomous. You spiteful old man. You cut your own blood out for a publicity stunt. You think you're so righteous? You're just bitter. I am not bitter, Victoria. I am precise. I pointed to the coffee table. Sit down. Both of you. The tone in my voice wasn't a request. It was an absolute command. It was the voice I used on the factory floor when a steel cable was about to snap. They both froze. Slowly, hesitantly, they sat on the edge of the sofa. I leaned forward. I opened the first cardboard box. I pulled out a thick stack of papers. I tossed it onto the glass table. It landed with a heavy thud. "What is this?" Brandon muttered. "Your foundation," I said. "That is the receipt for your first house. $85,000. Paid in full. By me." I threw another stack. "Your college tuition. Out of state. 0 student loans. Paid by me." I looked at Victoria. I tossed a pristine white folder across the glass. It slid and hit her designer bag. "Your wedding. The flowers. The band. The catering. $60,000. Paid by me." Brandon stared at the papers. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. "You thought you were successful," I said. My voice was a low, steady hum. "You thought you built your life. You didn't build anything. You lived inside a house that I paid for, on land that I cleared, using air that I bought for you." I paused. I let the silence coat the room. "And when it was time for you to simply stand next to me for 1 hour, you went to a swimming pool." Victoria crossed her arms. Her face hardened into a sneer. "So what? You want a trophy for being a father? You have plenty of Vanguard stock. You'll die a rich man. Brandon is the sole heir to the family trust anyway. You can't take the shares to the grave." I looked at her. A slow, chilling smile spread across my face. I reached into my inner jacket pocket. I pulled out a single crisp legal document with a fresh notary seal from Arthur Hayes. I laid it gently on top of the wedding receipts. "Read it," I said. Brandon picked it up. His eyes scanned the legal jargon. As he read, the color completely drained from his face. His hands started to shake. The paper rattled violently in his grip. "Dad," his voice broke. "Dad, this says the trust is dissolved." Victoria snatched the paper from his hands. Her eyes darted wildly across the ink. "What does this mean, Brandon? What does this mean?" "It means," I said methodically, quietly, "that the Vanguard shares are gone. The coastal property deed is gone. The trust is terminated. You are inheriting absolutely nothing." Victoria stopped breathing. Her eyes widened in pure, unadulterated horror. "Furthermore," I continued, leaning back in my chair, "you might want to check your wallets. The Platinum secondary cards were deactivated at 10:00 a.m. this morning. The hotel in Scottsdale likely charged your personal debit card for the early cancellation fees. I hope you have enough liquidity to cover it." Victoria frantically dug into her purse. She pulled out her phone. She opened her banking app. Her face contorted. A sick, guttural gasp escaped her throat. "You canceled the cards," she whispered. "I demolished the structure," I corrected. She stood up. Her chair scraped violently against the hardwood floor. She didn't look at me. She looked at Brandon. She looked at him with absolute, visceral disgust. He wasn't a VP of logistics anymore. He wasn't a millionaire in waiting. He was just a man with a heavy mortgage and a severed safety net. "You idiot," she hissed at him. "You absolute, pathetic idiot. You told me the trust was locked. Victoria, please." Brandon reached for her hand. She slapped it away. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the quiet room. She turned on her heel. She marched toward the front door. She didn't look back. The door slammed shut so hard the windows rattled in their frames. A moment later, the SUV engine roared to life, tires spinning out on the gravel as she abandoned him. Brandon sat alone on the sofa. The silence returned. Heavy. Final. He stared at the stacks of paper on the table. The canceled checks. The tuition bills. He slowly reached into the third box. He pulled out a stack of faded handwritten letters. He recognized the handwriting immediately. Eleanor's. He unfolded the top letter. It was a birthday card from when he turned 18. I watched his eyes track the words his mother had written decades ago. "Brandon, my beautiful boy, never forget that money is just paper. Time is the only real currency we have. Spend it on the people who love you. Once it's gone, no amount of wealth can ever buy it back." A single tear hit the paper. Then another. Brandon covered his face with his hands. His shoulders began to heave. The dam finally broke. He didn't cry because he lost the money. He didn't cry because his wife just walked out on him. He cried because the anesthesia of privilege had worn off, and he was finally feeling the agonizing pain of his own reflection. He was bankrupt. Morally, emotionally, spiritually. Bankrupt. "Dad," he sobbed, his voice muffled behind his hands. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I have nothing left." I looked at my son, a broken man sitting among the ruins of his own arrogance. I didn't feel triumph. I didn't feel joy. I just felt the quiet satisfaction of a structurally sound equation. I leaned forward. I didn't yell. I didn't hug him. I just delivered the final truth. "You aren't empty because I took my money away, Brandon," I said softly. "You are empty because my money was the only thing you ever had. Let that sink in."